I woke up this morning feeling weird. Like, really, really, really weird. The kind of weird where you're like standing in your kitchen and you catch yourself staring at the floor and you're like wondering, okay, what direction should I go in? What should I do right now? Should I go to the park? Should I go do schoolwork? Should I this, 1,000 things running through your head at one time. So the thinking thoughts are rampant, right? And it was like uncomfortable and kind of dissociative, like, oh, my surroundings. I feel like I'm not connecting with my surroundings, and I'm not necessarily connecting like with myself. And by myself, I'm really meaning I'm not connecting with my body. A lot of people have the experience of being out of their body, not quite fully rooted in, sitting back into this sacred vessel, but there isn't a recognition that that is actually occurring. I'm fortunately to the point in my journey where I'm particularly sensitive to that, and I can recognize that something's not quite right. So that was happening to me this morning. And when those rampant thinking thoughts are in place, I find that a lot of times what what I will do is immediately be like drawn to a state of avoidance. Like, oh, I'm going to turn on the TV. Oh, I'm going to do this other thing to keep my mind off of this uncomfortable feeling that I have in my soul right now. And I think part of that is also because we feel lost and we feel confused because the thinking thoughts are taking over and we feel directionless. And I just want everyone to know out there that there's always a direction, that there are so many tools that we all have in our toolbox, and we can grow and make even more expansive by the very moment and the very experience and in every opportunity. I discovered that today because I did probably 10, 12, 15. I used about 10, 12, 15 of my tools. So I got in my car. It's a beautiful day. It's in the 70s. Holy shit, for February. That's amazing. And I was getting this feeling that I needed to be at the beach. So I went by the river because it's the closest thing to me that could get me to the beach. And I touched my body. This is my arm. I'm touching my arm. When you touch your body and you move all throughout it, you're doing random massaging and like chopping and sensations, you start to be able to reconnect with your body, get closer to sitting back into the sacred vessel. I did that. It wasn't really working very well. I tried being with nature and connecting with Gaia, which I love doing, and it wasn't really working. I was noticing that when you're dissociating or a little bit like out of your body, out of your spirit, your surroundings look different. Not different enough that a lot of people will recognize that it's occurring in the moment. It can be subtle, but once you start tapping into those subtleties, they become more recognizable. So I was noticing that my eyes couldn't focus on any one thing. And even when I was trying to connect to nature, like through that way, I wasn't able to truly connect. I connected with the water. I knew the water was going to be really cold. I put my hands in cold water because I could feel the coldness, and I could release anything that was clogging my spirit from myself. Getting back into this body could be moved out to make space for me to come back in. I used light language. I usually sing in light language rather than speak in light language. So I used sound healing and light language to clear out some stuff from my spirit, to allow me to really get in touch with my emotions and to my heart, because it's a feeling-based language. After the light language, was able to be at the beach, because the sounds of the wind and the water at the river literally sounded like waves crashing, and my spirit felt safe. To return. So I started coming back to myself. I then laid on a river rock, and what I did then was allowed the thoughts to sift out. I shifted my focus on being. So I want to point out here that being is feminine, doing is masculine, and being with the body is a very, very feminine intelligence, and it is miraculous. There's so much that comes from that, and unfortunately, we as collective have very much so forgotten this connection between ourselves and our body, which is why we often don't recognize that we're not tapped into our body. And it also means that we have forgotten this ancient, beautiful knowledge of the feminine. Sometimes, it seems like if we're feeling uncomfortable, the thing to do is to speak. Speak. Sometimes the thing to do is not say anything at all, but to just be. Because your spirit is wanting to be held and wanting to be nurtured, and you can also speak through your body. And it moves a lot of energy. So it's very potent in this like nourishing but soft and gentle way. It can be. Sometimes it's super primal and like aggressive-ish, but either way, it's really productive. So I laid in this beingness. When any thinking thoughts were, I would just allow them to breeze on by, and I would just come back to my center. The only reason why I was even able to get to that point was because of all the things I did previous to that. I do want to kind of point that out, because if I would have tried to do that originally, it would have been thinking thoughts all over the place. It would have been really hard for me to tap into my beingness. So at that point, I was able to actually have clarity. Clarity of mind is not something that you have when your thinking thoughts are going in a million different directions. And that's a part of why being is so potent and powerful, because it can bring you, it actually, like, your thoughts will follow your body. When you're in your body and you're getting comfortable with that and that safe space, it's less heady and more like here. So I was able to get clarity on some of the things, like just doing things in my day, or like what was going on in my life, how I was really feeling, what was rising in me. So I allowed my body to lead me into a natural progression into what was my truth and how I was really feeling, and also to like compass me into my own direction. So I found direction. And then I put on some headphones, which my intuition told me to bring them out to the river, and I did body work. And by body work, I'm meaning I danced out on a river rock, and I did energy work simultaneously, and I tapped into the sounds, into my feeling body. I did lots of release, and I kind of, it's like you move around those tense spots, you like wiggle them out and stretch them out, and you really just are totally with yourself, but at the same time you're able to like be with everything else around you. It's really sacred and beautiful. It's like being in the safe space where the rest of the universe gets to meet you. It was an amazing experience, and I'm in a totally different state than I was this morning. I'm essentially posting this video because this is a practice that has been so amazing for me, and I'm really, really coming to understand this divine feminine knowledge and the beauty of this vessel and what it does. It holds so much experience for us, so much knowledge there's a lot to be gained by the wisdom of the body. And also to say, because these are kind of tumultuous, energetically high, intense times. Today is the new moon. We had a really wild full moon prior to this, and so I feel like there is a lot of upheaval, really like big releases, things surfacing from each of our individual core lifelong like wounds, and it's needing a way to move. In which case, a lot of like the experiences I was having this morning, that is all tied into that. And I want everyone to know that you have so many tools in your toolbox that you have available to you now, or that you can grow. And there are so many different ways for us to grow. There are ways that we don't recognize, that we have avenues and pathways to move into a new space, but they really are ultimately accessible to us when we open our spirit to different ways of healing, different ways of moving, different ways of being with ourselves. So I really welcome everyone to join me in moving into entirely new spaces through whatever avenues are best feeling to you in the moment, and to really discovering what that means for your individual journey. Happy New One, everyone. I love you very much.